Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Guilty as Charged podcast. Very happy for this episode. This is a recurring guest for today. The director is joining us. How you doing today, man?
Yo, what up, brothers? Good to see everybody. Good to be back here with the Guilty Boys. Can that be your guys' new name, the Guilty Boys? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my name for right
You
now.
can absolutely call us that, man, if you want to. So we're really excited about this. Like I said, this is the second time that we've done an episode with the director. I don't know if you remember our mock draft that we did last time, but I went back and looked on it, and we picked Rashawn Slater first. I think that was obviously very common, but it was fun looking back at Landon Dickerson, Quincy Roche, and Anthony Schwartz, Alex's favorite draft crush.
It's kind of like that, in your early days of dating, that there's always that one chick that got away, and you're like, oh man, what our future could have been, Anthony Schwartz. What kind of offense this Chargers could have been, Anthony Schwartz. But still, the Chargers draft pretty solid. I'm glad we got the Rashawn Slater pick right. I mean, 1 out of however 9 picks this last season. Okay, I'll take it. Super happy about Asante Samuel, though. Landon Dickerson versus Asante Samuel. I think the Chargers got the good end of the bargain there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did into getting Asante Samuel, and just I didn't think he would fall to 47 at all. And so that was really kind of the blessing in getting him and not having to trade up for him.
Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, Alex gets the best of both worlds because the Eagles, his second favorite team, did take Landon Dickerson. So good times for Alex. But obviously fun, looking back at mock drafts and how this offseason has really taken shape for the Los Angeles Chargers. And unfortunately, we did not get to talk about free agency. We really focused on the draft, doing some mock draft, things like that. So I want to get your thoughts, on, you can talk about the draft, you can talk about free agency. Who you think for this team, is like the most important addition on the roster that they made?
I mean, it's a big question because the Chargers did do a lot this off season, and I actually was going to save this for a later segment, but I'm going to say that the biggest, I mean, it might be, a little obvious to some people, but I think Corey Linsley coming to this team, a lot of people may not, maybe didn't pay as much attention to it because they wanted more off-season acquisitions because, we had the money to spend, but Corey Linsley with Justin Herbert in this offense, especially in a circumstance where the whole offensive line has been rebuilt, you need a presence like Corey Linsley in the center of that line to really help glue everything together. And I think specifically in Justin Herbert's sophomore season, that communication between the line is going to be very underrated. I think it's an underrated concept altogether, the communication between quarterback and center. I think that's going to be vastly, vastly important for the Chargers and specifically this brand new offensive line in the season. So there's a lot of good things the Chargers did this offseason. I was very excited. There's some things that maybe a tough pill to swallow, Melvin, Casey, Hunter Henry. But the things that they are doing gets me really excited because it's very obvious to me that this team is embracing change and really building around Justin Herbert. They're kind of all in on Justin Herbert. So, I mean, what was your guys' favorite move this offseason?
Oh, I mean, I know Stevens would be Corey Linsley. That would probably be his favorite move this offseason. And I think that one is hard to argue with just because of how much of an upgrade Corey Linsley is over Dan Feeney. I mean, no disrespect to Dan Feeney, but anytime you have a chance to go get an all-pro, that kind of a presence on the line, you can do it. And the Chargers haven't had that at any point in the last 20 years. It's certainly been a long time. So I think it's hard to disagree with that one. I mean, and I would also, go with Rashawn Slater. Like that has to be the other addition that people talk about and really get excited for, just because this offensive line had to be, completely burned to the ground and rebuilt. I did want to get also your take on the coaching staff, because when Brandon Staley was hired in January, I feel like people were, not so sure about what to think just because we all thought it was going to be Brian Daboll and then it wasn't. So what were your thoughts when he was hired at the time, and what were sort of your thoughts now?
Yeah, the Chargers definitely famous for those under the radar signings. They don't really let any of their plans leak out into the universe too soon. So I felt like part of that was my fault. Of course, we've got a good Chargers channel going on over there, and I didn't really even mention Brandon Staley that much on my channel. Because I think back then it was all the Brian Dable train. Oh, the Chargers, they want to bring in this guy that's going to turn Justin Herbert into a superhuman. It's going to be a very exciting offense going into the future. In hiring Brandon Staley, though, my initial reaction was a little put off because he's one of those names that I read alongside a lot of other people that I maybe ignored. That's on me. I went back and looked at a lot of his background and the reason why the Chargers picked him up. And it really felt like this was the choice all along for them. And that's something that made me feel very comfortable, is because like it does feel like the league is changing, right? And with that change comes these young, analytically minded head coaches. And I think that's something very exciting for football in general, especially the Chargers being able to snag one of those pieces early in Brandon Staley. And that got me really excited, because the thought of the Chargers being able to make these decisions at such a deep level, like with the data and everything, they just hired that guy, what's his name, Alex something, as a data analyst and stuff like that. That really tells me that they're getting into the nitty gritty of football. Right. And that makes me really excited about, one, the potential for the team to make leaps in that direction, but two, maybe the lack or the cleaning up of mistakes that we saw from the coaching staff last season. Because there was some games and some days where I was like, I can't believe I wouldn't do that in Madden. And I'm watching it in pro football right now, of course, with Anthony Lynn, who I really do respect as a human, but there were some games that I was just like, man, throw it away. Sit down. Like it's bad. So I'm very excited about Brandon Staley. The defense should be vastly improved, obviously. And the offense, I think some people don't realize, should improve as well with Brandon Staley, having that perspective at quarterback. It's funny, though, that Anthony Lynn, playing the position of running back, had a thing that he really wanted to do with the Chargers. I think Brandon Staley might have a thing that he wants to do with the Chargers that pertains to the position that he played. And that's a very important position to have perspective on when you're, maintaining that kind of offense. So, yeah, I'm excited. Brandon Staley should be an awesome addition to the Bolts.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see how this pans out. Are you going to a training camp, by the way, at all?
Not this year, no. I'm going to hold down the fort here, make some content. I got family and stuff coming in town, but I'm very excited to see, some of those camp battles and what Brandon Staley looks like. So far, his mic'd up sessions have been awesome.
Yeah, man, it's going to be really exciting to get out there. I'm going to make it down for a couple days as well. Get my eyes on some of the players, some of the new schemes, and just kind of learning about what this offense and defense are going to look like. Man, it's exciting to really talk about a scheme change, because I feel like with Phillip Rivers, the scheme never really changed. You know what I mean? Like there were just tweaks, but this team is really going through an overhaul in every facet of the organization, which is just, very exciting to sit back here and watch. And obviously it's all positivity right now, but I'm very, very excited to see how it unfolds.
Yeah. I feel like, again, the embracing of change, the NFL is always changing. It's been changing since the day it was, spawned. And I feel like, especially right now, the formula in which to bring up a team, especially with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, not every day you stumble on a quarterback like that. Being able to embrace that change and recognize change as necessary to move into the next level with this quarterback is very important. So I'm excited that all these moves do point in that direction for me. Even though me as a fan might not understand it to the deepest level, I understand the change that's happening in front of me, and I support it 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I want to thank Patrick Mahomes for some content ideas that he was able to give us. What did you make of his? I don't know. I don't necessarily think it was like a slight about Justin Herbert, but what did you make of his, I'll see it when I believe it, which he said the saying wrong. He was supposed to say, I'll believe it when I see it.
In my experience, when you're throwing shade at somebody and it's a classic, line like, haha, and you get it wrong, it means somebody's in your head, right? I think Justin Herbert's probably in his head a little bit, but at the base level of it, I mean, it's sports. Everybody's very competitive. It was friendly banter, I think, when you really get down to it. But at the same time, the fact that he stumbled on it, the fact that he had to bring it up at all that way, it makes me feel like, okay, he's in his head at least at some level. And I'm excited to see, because I'm sure the entire NFL is interested outside the AFC West of this thing between Herbert and Mahomes. And it's just going to continue to grow. And the rivalry, I'm happy to say, has been sparked. And so I'm excited to see that classic, rivalry that like we've seen in the past, Brady and Peyton Manning and stuff like that.
I mean, it's funny, you mentioned Brady and Peyton Manning, and Brady's been able to play for so long that now he has a new rivalry with Mahomes. Right?
There you go. Yeah.
He's outlasted everyone, and we'll be talking about Brady in 10 years starting a rivalry with someone else.
Oh gosh.
It's just how long he's been going. But yeah, I mean, I didn't take it really to be like too much of a slight. I did think it was weird that he just messed up the phrase, just because Patrick Mahomes generally is like perfect, NFL company man, and he doesn't usually start beef with people. But yeah, no, but that was still fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely, very excited to see. Getting the two of them together in the same division is going to be, awesome television for the next few years. I also want to talk about, with the three of us, the quarterback rankings that came out with Justin Herbert. Jeremy Fowler surveyed NFL execs, coaches, other players. I don't know exactly how many people he surveyed, but Justin Herbert clocked in at 9. What did you make of Herbert being a kind of a lock for a top 10 spot? I think Deshaun Watson was omitted from that, but people kind of talked about him as a lock to be a top 10 guy, potentially, move up some more, obviously, this year. So what did you make of Jeremy Fowler's article and Justin Herbert checking in at number 9?
Yeah, I actually didn't read the article. This is actually the first time I'm hearing that he clocked in at number 9. And my initial reaction might be the same reaction people that first, click on the article, like, what? He's not number 1 in the NFL. I get it. All right. He was the best NFL rookie quarterback we've ever seen in the history of the league, I think, by a lot of people's opinions. And some people might expect him to be a top 5 quarterback. I think top 10 is very respectable for your second year in the NFL. So that's very exciting to hear, because again, the road is just starting for Justin Herbert. The journey has just begun. The whole mentality of building around him and putting him up for success has just begun. So at number 9, I'm quite impressed. I would also like to know maybe the people that just came in before him, like at 8 and 7. I think that'll give me a little bit of better perspective if you guys remember.
Yeah, so the list from 1 to 8 was Mahomes number 1. You had Rodgers number 2, Brady number 3, Wilson number 4, Allen number 5, Stafford 6, Dak 7, Lamar 8.
Yeah.
Who was 7?
And then
Dak, and then Lamar, and then number 10 was Kyler Murray.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It makes sense. I think that list, of course, as everything does, is going to be changing in the next season. And I think the names in front of him are really going to have to step up to keep him at bay. So that's where I'm at right now. I think Herbert's definitely got the potential this season to overtake at least a couple of names this year. I think, honestly, in the next 10 years or so, he could definitely be top 5, top 3 in the way of his development.
Yeah, and go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, it's all about, his development and getting into that top 5. But like you said, it's kind of the rookie year, and the NFL is always like, well, show me what you want to do next year, right? Because we've seen quarterbacks have a great rookie year and then do, what people are scared of for Herbert, which is the idea of a sophomore slump, right? Even though I don't think that'll happen, a lot of NFL executives, and I think it was actually 60 executives that Fowler polled. That he said, but they just want to see him do it again, right? And it's just like, do it again and do it again until you're eventually top 5 and considered them by the GMs.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of a sophomore slump for Justin Herbert, I get it. We've seen it happen. We've seen it happen recently. Baker Mayfield, right? I feel like a lot of people, when they bring up the danger of a sophomore slump, it's Baker Mayfield. And I think, honestly, you can't compare those two circumstances in that way, because there is so much that's different surrounding it. There's a lot that's the same, and I'm not going to, throw away the possibility of it. Certainly anything could happen, but I think more than likely Justin Herbert is set up to improve from his NFL rookie season rather than decline in any way. And a lot of people, I think I read a post from you, Alex, that I really enjoyed about regression. There's both positive and negative regression. And I think Justin Herbert is going to see some positive regression in some statistics, and he's going to have, the offensive line to continue to improve analytically, to improve in his performance. And with Baker Mayfield had that issue with Freddie Kitchens. I think the Chargers may have been in a similar situation if we went and got a Brian Dable. Kitchen was pretty good at calling plays and stuff, but he wasn't really good at planning. I think that was part of the detriment of Baker Mayfield in his sophomore slump. And then his entire team was hurt, I think. And that's something that honestly, Justin Herbert doesn't have a lot of control over, but Baker found himself in a very tough situation in his sophomore season. Looking at Justin Herbert with the improved offensive line, not to mention a full off season with the ones. Did you guys see that art? I don't know if it's true. I can't speak for it, but I think somewhere out there I saw that Keenan Allen mentioned his first pass that he caught from Justin Herbert was in week 2 versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
What in the world? I mean, okay, that speaks to what the Chargers coaching staff was like last season, right? That's kind of insane. But as well as the kind of value that you're going to get out of a full off season with Justin Herbert, practicing with the ones, practicing in a scheme that's been designed for him. Everything for Justin Herbert shouldn't have worked for Justin Herbert last year. Now he's got all the additional support. The cavalry has arrived. So to me, I feel like it's really obvious that Justin Herbert more than likely is going to see an improvement in his sophomore season, which improving on his season last year is going to be a very good season in the NFL for any quarterback.
Yeah, I think there are absolutely some areas in which he will negatively regress. Like he's not going to be the best quarterback under pressure again, because that never happens. Like Breeze hasn't been the best quarterback under pressure in consecutive seasons. Like it's just such a, up and down statistic. So that probably will come down, but he's going to be under pressure less frequently, hopefully, with this new offensive line. So I think absolutely he can improve. He can take strides. If he throws for 10 less yards per game, like who freaking cares? Like if he throws for 275 instead of 283, who cares? Like I think that's a fine thing to look at. So it's so funny to me, like this narrative, and we've talked about this on our show. Like people will mention like Justin Jefferson is like a top 3 player, or a top 5 receiver, or a top 4 in the 25 and under, and then it's like, well, Justin Herbert isn't because he might regress and he might hit a sophomore slump. It's like, well, where's the consistency here?
Justin Herbert, I think when it really comes down to, at least for me, in that, because it's really hard as a Chargers YouTuber and a Chargers fan and all the Chargers titles and all that, whatever, to not be biased about Justin Herbert, realistically, where he's headed in his sophomore season, but also realistically, I feel like Herbert's team got better where it matters most for quarterback. Absolutely. And that's the offensive line. I keep track of your guys' like posts and stuff like that. And I was reading one about what the most important like position in the offense is, whether it's wide receiver, offensive line. One of you mentioned that, it's going to be offense. I think for the longest time, it's been offensive line. And I feel like especially today where it's even harder to find quality offensive linemen, the Chargers were able to pull that off. And for a quarterback, for Justin Herbert, that's the most important thing that you can improve on, especially considering what he was working with last year. And then also to add to that point, what I said with Corey Linsley, that sort of leadership and experience that Corey Linsley is going to bring to that line will also help Justin Herbert in his ability to communicate with that line and really learn how to work with that unit. So it's just, I'm very excited. It's tough to hide my excitement for Justin Herbert with the offensive line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all excited for Herbert, and it's funny you mentioned that, like, you read our posts and stuff, and I've always found that interesting because Tyler will message me like, "Hey, director mentioned one of your articles in a video." I'm like, "What?" I just like spit out my water and I can go watch it. But yeah, man, I mean, you do a great job for the Chargers community and all that. And
likewise, YouTube. You guys. Yeah. I mean, I take this as a compliment. Okay, in real life, I love surrounding myself with eggheads. Okay, because in retrospect, I seem a little bit smarter, but I really do feel like sharing that sort of knowledge and perspective that you guys have with the Chargers fan base is always awesome, man. So yeah, I appreciate what you guys do too. You really help even me understand the game at a deeper level.
Yeah, man, it's been a great journey for the three of us. And, we interviewed Robert Mays a couple of weeks ago, which was awesome for the two of us. Big fans of his podcast and just learning about the history of the game and things like that. So we'll get you out of here on this last question. Sure. What is a training camp position battle that you are most interested in, watching unfold this year?
Do I go with the obvious in Ode Ibushi and in Hymus. I don't know. It's really tough. I really feel like I want to see what's going on at a deeper level at edge. I think that's the one position that has my attention the most outside of defensive back is edge opposite Joey Bosa. I want to see what Chris Rumpf has to bring to the table, maybe as a rotation player or something like that. I want to see Uchenna Nwosu step up with the ones and see what kind of production he puts up. So I'm going to say the position of edge opposite Joey Bosa. I want to see what the plan is over there because obviously we're all sick of seeing Joey Bosa maybe not reach his full potential on game day because there's so much being thrown at him on that side of the line. I'm sure the scheme's going to help that a lot with Brandon Staley. He's really good at disguising those sort of, blitz packages and stuff like that. But I do feel like Chris Rumpf is someone I have my eye on. Uchenna Nwosu is someone I have my eye on. And then Kyler Fackrell, too. I want to see how they're going to be using him because I see a lot of potential in him. I've seen a lot of big plays out of him with the Green Bay Packers and the New York Giants and stuff like that. I do feel like he's going to be someone that maybe flies under the radar that does contribute a lot this season, maybe the same way that Nick Vigil did last year.
Yeah, and I want to get one more before we get you out. But
please, yeah.
We did this with Robert Mays. So gun to your head record prediction. What would you go for the Chargers in 2021?
I'm not even going to hesitate. 11-6. First 18 weeks season of the NFL. I think 11-6 for me. Like it's really the schedule is really tough, and that's me being optimistic. I'll say that, but I'm going to go with my heart in those gun to your head situations. I'm going to say 11-6. But the Chargers, people do need to realize, are going to be in a very, very difficult situation in the first half of the year. The schedule is pretty stiff. And in my prediction, this means the Chargers maybe make it out like 3-3 in the first 6 games. 2-4, maybe there's still a possibility, but if they can find some success in the early part of the year, I think that they're going to be suited up for a very good playoff push, at least the chances of making the playoffs in the later half of the year. But a lot does depend on whether they step up to the plate during those really tough opponents in the first half of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we counted up the games, and I'm the pessimist on this show, and somehow I also predicted 11-6. So
some people don't like 11-6. I get it, Chargers fans. The first 17-0 season would be absolutely fantastic. 11-6 is super, super solid when it comes to the division we're playing, the schedule, and honestly, the second year with Justin Herbert. So I think that'd be great. What about you, Steve?
I happen to think it's 10-7 is where it ends up. I think absolutely it could be more than that. I think, this team, if Justin Herbert does make that MVP leap, then it's probably going to be more than even 11-6. So, I think this team has such a high ceiling with the star players that they have. But, the lifelong Chargers fan of me always errs on the side of caution when it comes to predictions. So
10-7 still super solid in retrospect,
like you were saying, I think there is just this kind of expectation for the teams to win every single game. And like, obviously that would be very happy. I would be very happy if that happened, but this is the NFL. Like the more often than not, teams are around 500 that, 11-6 would be an amazing, amazing season for the Chargers. And frankly, in my opinion, anything above 500 is a win. So if they're 9-8, I still think that's a really good season for them.
Awesome. What do you guys, I have a question real quick for you guys. What do you think it's going to take record-wise for the Chargers to make it into the playoffs this season, considering all of the competition in the AFC West alone?
I think it's going to be really hard. I mean, we've seen, last year, every team who made the playoffs in the wild card was 11-5, right, in the AFC. So, that was the Colts, the Browns, and who was it? Colts, Browns, Ravens were the 3 teams. So, I think it's just going to be really tough to make it there. So I don't think it'll be quite that tough this year, as I think you could see, more teams beating up on each other. But I think it'll at least take 10-9 wins, maybe +1 because of the extra 17th game, which I'm still getting used to. And I remember, saying 10-6 and 11-5 on the podcast, and I'll probably still say it until we actually play the 17th game.
Yeah, that's around where I had it too. 10-6, 11-6. Sorry, that is where
there you go.
It's gonna. Yeah, there it is. There, it's happening. I can't stop it.
Already,
it's rolling with it to make the playoffs. That's where I'm at too.
Yeah, I think it takes 10 wins minimum. Like I don't think in the AFC you can get into the playoffs at 9-8. I think it's got to get 10 wins minimum, because I think you look at, obviously you have the 4 division winners, which will get in. And then, you can talk about teams like the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, whoever wins the AFC North, is going to be such a fun division to watch. But, the Patriots are going to be better this year as well. So I think it takes 10 wins, probably 11 to feel like comfortable the Chargers are going to be in that situation. So that's just where my head is at. But this has been awesome, man. We can't thank you enough for taking the time out to join us again for part 2. What kind of projects you got coming up in the next few weeks?
Oh, just getting ready for the season, up in the game a little bit in the visual department for a couple of different. One of my favorite things to do in the season that we kind of stumbled on last year was the live broadcast during the games. Of course, we can't show the actual game. What do you guys want me to drop $200,000-$300,000 to show the game on the channel? But what we do is get together as Chargers fans and scream and holler, and we usually get a good number of people in there, and that it makes me feel like I'm at a sports bar for the Chargers. And there's just tons of people in there screaming. And that's something that I guess every sports fan kind of dreams about. So it's been a really surreal experience for me. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited for that.
Awesome, man. Well, Chargers fans, make sure and check him out on YouTube if you are not already doing so. Follow him on Twitter as well. And Director, man, we can't thank you enough. This has been great. We'll see you next time, man.
Take care,
guys. Kia ora.